Welcome back to The Explainer. We're about to dive into something it's right at that fascinating crossroads of faith, culture, and modern science. We're going to unpack the real health-based wisdom behind some of Islam's most famous dietary laws. So let's get into it. Let's look at the science behind the scripture.
So, here's a big one. It's probably one of the most common questions people have, especially in the West. Why does Islam prohibit alcohol and pork? I mean, to an outsider, these rules can feel kind of random, right? But what you're about to see is that they're actually deeply, deeply rooted in a whole system for physical and mental wellness. And the craziest part? Modern science is actually backing it all up.
Okay, so first up, let's tackle the one that probably has the most visible impact all around the world. We're talking about the case against alcohol.
So the foundation for this rule, it's laid out crystal clear in the Quran. This verse here, it actually frames intoxicants as a defilement, something that believers should avoid to, succeed, not just spiritually, but in life, period. So, what is this defilement it's talking about? What does that actually mean?
Well, it's pretty incredible when you think about it. That guidance from 1400 years ago lines up almost perfectly with what modern medicine tells us right now. I mean, we have literal mountains of data linking alcohol to some really serious stuff. Severe liver damage like cirrhosis, a whole bunch of cancers, and long-term brain issues. And that's just what it does to the body. The social costs, from addiction to drunk driving and domestic violence, they're just staggered.
And if you want to put a number on it, just look at this. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they found that 5.3%, that's more than 5% of all deaths around the entire globe every single year, are because of alcohol. That is a truly sobering statistic. And it just shows you what a massive public health challenge this really is.
And, that impact just ripples outward. The WHO also estimates that alcohol is a factor in almost a third of all fatal car accidents. And this right here, this highlights a really crucial point. This prohibition isn't just about protecting yourself, your own body. It's about protecting everyone, the entire community. All right, so that's alcohol. Now let's switch gears and look at the second major dietary law we're digging into, the case against pork.
And just like with alcohol, the rule is super explicit. This verse from the Quran lists the flesh of swine, pork, as one of the forbidden foods. So again, you have to ask the same question. What is the health wisdom behind this?
Well, scientifically, there are actually a few major concerns. For one, pigs can carry parasites that cause really nasty infections, like trichinosis. They can also transmit other viruses and bacteria to humans. On top of that, pork is famous for being high in saturated fat, which, as we all know, is linked to heart disease. And think about it historically. Before refrigeration was a thing, pork went bad incredibly fast. It was a huge food safety risk.
Okay, so we've looked at these two ancient rules and the modern science. But this next part, this is where it really all clicks together. Let's talk about the core philosophy that connects both of them.
To really get the why behind all this, you have to understand one key concept, tahara. Now, it's an Arabic word, and it translates to purity or cleanliness. But listen, this is so much more than just washing your hands. It's this big, holistic idea about keeping your entire self well, your body, your spirit, everything. It's this fundamental belief that your body is a trust, a gift from God, and you have to take care of it.
And you can see the parallels so clearly when you just put them side by side. On one hand, you have the Islamic reason for avoiding alcohol, to preserve your mind and prevent harm in society. And what does the WHO and the CDC say? That it reduces your risk of chronic diseases and cancer. It's the same story with pork. The goal of tahara, of physical purity, lines up perfectly with modern nutrition warning us about high saturated fat and contaminants. And what's really fascinating is that we're seeing this exact same principle pop up in our culture today. I'm talking about movements like sober living or being sober curious. They're built on the exact same idea, that not drinking alcohol brings huge benefits for your physical and mental health. It's like a brand new trend that's validating this ancient piece of wisdom.
Okay, so with all that in mind, let's tackle a couple of common questions and some misconceptions that always seem to come up with this topic.
And here's the first big one you're probably thinking. With all our modern technology, with better farming and medicine, aren't these rules from 1400 years ago just
outdated?
Well, based on all the evidence we have, the answer is a pretty clear not at all. Sure, modern farming has maybe reduced some of the parasite risks with pork, but that high-fat content, that's still there. And when it comes to alcohol, the risks of liver damage, cancer, addiction, those haven't changed one bit. If anything, the science we have today just confirms how timeless this wisdom really is.
Okay, but that leads to the next logical question, right? If this stuff is so risky, why is it totally normal, even celebrated, in so many other cultures all over the world?
And it really just comes down to a difference in values, what a culture decides to prioritize. You see, the Islamic framework puts community health and spiritual purity way up high on the list. It sees the body as a trust from God. Now, on the other hand, many Western cultures tend to put a higher value on individual freedom and personal choice. And look, this isn't about which one is better or worse. It's just about recognizing that different cultures have different priorities.
So, when you zoom out and look at the big picture, here's the main takeaway. These dietary laws, they're not just some random list of don'ts. They are specific, carefully designed parts of a whole system. A system designed to boost the physical, mental, and social well-being of a person and the community they're a part of.
And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. In today's world, we're just buried in information. Fad diets, conflicting health advice everywhere you look. So the question is, what can this kind of ancient, time-tested wisdom teach us about what it really means to live a healthy, balanced life today? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on This Explainer.